Hey, this is René, welcome back for another programming tutorial on this channel, and today we will build the ultimate mean reversion or retracement or turnaround indicator, whatever you want to call it, and I will program it for gold and also test it in gold. And I will use different indicators. So you can see it here in the chart already. We'll use the RSI indicator, the Stochastic indicator, and the MACD indicator. So a lot of these oscillators that you can find in the MetaTrader 5 and that are well-known indicators and used by a lot of traders. And the idea is that we will use one or two of these indicators, for example, the RSI and the Stochastic, as signal indicators. So if both of them, for example, are above 70, and then we would enter a trade and we will use the MACD as a filter indicator. So if the MACD main line is below the signal line on a higher time frame, maybe we will only go with short trades, and if the MACD main line is above the signal line, we will go only with long trades. So this is the idea. Hope you like it, and yeah, this will be a complete programming tutorial from beginning to the end. So stick along, follow along this video, watch it until the end so you will learn something. And I will not post the code for this in the comment, and I do not suggest that you just copy code from a comment, for example, because you do not learn something. What I want to do on this channel is really teach you programming, make you understand programming, which is even more than just copying code, but really trying to understand the code, to understand why it is there at a specific point. And this is what I want to do on this channel. So make sure to follow along this whole tutorial from the beginning to the end, and you will learn so much about MetaTrader 5 programming. I can guarantee this. So let's start with the programming. In the MetaTrader 5, we can go to Tools and then MetaQuotes Language Editor. This will open the Integrated Development Environment, or short IDE. Here you will find in the upper left corner this new button, and you can click it, and then you will select Expert Advisor Template, click on Next. Then it asks you to choose a name, and we can say oscillator trading. I don't know. You can choose any name you like, and then you click on Next, Next, and Finish. And this creates a brand new Expert Advisor template. They always look like this when you create a new Expert Advisor, and then you have a lot of these gray lines. Usually I just go ahead and delete all of these gray lines because they are just comments. So whenever you see, or you can use comments on your own, just use two of these slashes and then it is a comment. So whatever's written in this line here is ignored by the computer, or more to say by the compiler. Because if we click on this compile button up here, in the status bar, you can just click it to test it. It will take your MQ5 file, which is the one that we are formatting right now, and it will turn it into a executable file. Executable files are then in the MetaTrader 5. So if you go back to the MetaTrader 5 and you go to Expert Advisors now, you should find the program that you just compiled if there were no errors, because now it is an executable file and can be used in the MetaTrader for further processing or for using it. But in this case, we do not want to have this comment. Then we have three basic functions left. And personally, I like to rearrange my curly brackets like this. You don't have to do this, but this is just the format that I'm used to and that I usually use. Then we have three properties at the top. And these properties are just for the user as a information. So for example, if we go back to the MetaTrader 5 and now take this oscillator trading program and drag it on a chart, you will see that there's a window which is opening automatically. And this is giving me the name, the version ID, the copyright, and the link. And this is exactly the information that is provided here by these properties. So we could say property 2024, René Balke, for example, instead of MetaQuotes, or you could use your name or whatever copyright you want to have there. And then you can also change the link, for example, to my website, en.bmtrading.de. This is a website that you should definitely check out, because I also have a complete programming course on MetaTrader 5 programming, where I learn a lot more than I just teach on YouTube. And yeah, it's going really in depth, and you will also learn advanced programming stuff. But for now, let's compile it like this. Oh, also you can have other properties too, like the description. This is a oscillator trading robot, for example, like this. And if you add this description, you will see that it is now written here. So you can see this is some really cool stuff. And yeah, but it is not taking any effect. It's not having any effect on the program itself. It's just a information for the user of the program. Then we have 3 functions. These are event handling functions. They are called automatically by the MetaTrader 5 if this program is running on a chart. Like for example here, I can drag and drop it on a chart. And if I click on OK then, instead of cancel, it will be attached to the chart, and you can see it here in the upper right corner of the chart. Which means that if there is one of these events that we see here in this specific chart, it will automatically execute the function for this specific expert advisor, which is attached to this chart. This is really important. And then we have these 3 functions. In short, the onInit function, it will be called if there's a initialization event. Then we have the onDinit function, which is called if there's a deinitialization event. And then we have the onTick function, which is called when there's a tick in the chart. So you can see the name pretty much says what the function does already. So inside of the so-called body of the function, which is wrapped by these curly brackets here. So in the curly brackets, there's always the body of a function. And here I just added 3 lines, and you should do so on your PC. Also, again, make sure to copy everything that I do on your own PC also. That's the best way to learn. And trust me, I've been where you are right now, not knowing a lot about programming and automated trading strategies in general. But the only way to learn, to really become better at this, is to do the work, like do some programming stuff, copy the code manually, type in the words, and this will make your brain recognize these steps when you need them again. So please trust me and copy every line that I write. So here you can see I added these 3 print statements, and print statements I used in MetaTrader programming to show something in the expert's journal in your toolbox. So if you open the toolbox, which you can do by clicking View Toolbox, you will see there's an Experts tab. And if I now compile the program again, it will make sure that these lines are now part of the program. So we will see some information in the Experts tab, right? So for example, here we can see onInit. This is because the program was initialized. And if I deactivate the program, you will see onDinit. So let me activate the program again, and it will call onInit again. Oh, and then we see some ticks here also. So you can see these event handling functions can be used to automatically execute code that is inside of the body of the specific function if there's an event. For example, when I activate the program, the onTick function is called. When I remove it, the onDinit function is called. When there's a tick in the chart, so a price movement, the onTick function is called. That's why we see the onTick function so often here, and not the initialization or deinitialization, because the onTick function is called for every single tick. But yeah, for now, let me delete at least this onTick here, because it's not really, yeah, maybe I will delete all of these print statements. This was just to show you how it works. But now we want to start with some actual coding. So whenever we want to work with indicators, we first of all need to get these indicators or calculate these indicators. And there are different ways in MetaTrader programming to do so. We could use the indicators that are attached to the chart, but we could also make the expert advisor create his own indicator calculation in the background. So it would work even if the indicators are not attached to the chart, and that's what you usually do. In this case, you use handles for indicators. So let's do this maybe for the first indicator, the RSI. So what I just did here is, outside of any function at the very top of my program, I created a so-called global variable. This variable is of type integer. This is why I write int first. And then there's the name handle RSI. This is just the name of the indicator, the variable, sorry. And then we end the line with a semicolon. So this is the declaration of the indicators, of a variable. So what is happening here is, this piece of code is executed automatically when the program is activated on the chart for the first time. Then the program will find this declaration and it will go into the random access memory of your PC. And at some point, it will create, or it will reserve 8 bytes for this integer variable. I think it's 8 bytes. You can also read it in the documentation, and the reference or documentation for MQL5 is an important tool that you can open when you click on Help MQL5 Reference. And here you can search for anything, for example, int. Oh yeah, and you can see this is only 4 bytes. So I was wrong here, and it's only 4 bytes. So whenever your program is activated, it will go into the memory of your PC and it will just reserve a spot of 4 bytes because it knows that at some point this program wants to store some data at this point. And we can address this specific part of your random access memory using the name of the variable, which is handle RSI. So what I could do in the onInit is I could say, here I could say handle RSI is equal to 3, like this. This means that now at this reserved spot in the random access memory, we store the value 3. So if we now go ahead and use this variable again to receive the value like this, it will print 3. So you can see this is what variables are for. Variables are used to just pretty much variables are not more than an address or a pointer to a specific location in the random access memory of your PC. So you can reserve spots in the random access memory, you can put values in this specific spot, and then you can say to the PC, hey bro, look at this specific spot in the random access memory and get me whatever is stored at this location. So this is why variables are used to work with data. Of course, in this case, we do not just want to store a value like 3 in this variable. But what we want to do is we want to call a function. And this function is called RSI. This is a small letter I and then 3 capital letter RSI. And then after this, you want to open round brackets like this. So, hold up, René, this is too much information, you might think. But actually it's really easy because what this RSI is, it is just a function pretty much that we call. So these functions that we already know, they are event handling functions. So they are called by the MetaTrader itself. So we do not really have to call them, right? But there are a lot of more functions. For example, this print statement or print function is also a function. So you can call this manually. And here we want to call the RSI function. So what this function does is it lets us create a indicator or it lets us define a indicator. So if you have a look at the reference again, which you can, by the way, also open by clicking F1 on your keyboard, and if your cursor is currently in a function name, it will automatically open the entry for this function. And you can see this function will return a handle of the relative strength index indicator, the RSI. And this is exactly what we want because the RSI is one of our indicators. So also in the documentation, we can read that this function looks like this. So we always find the signature of a function in the reference. And a lot of these functions that you can see here, also you can scroll through here and you will find a lot of different functions. For example, you can not only use the RSI function, but you will also find the IOBV, IOpen, IOSMA, IReal volume. So you can see there are a lot of predefined functions that we can use to do stuff pretty much. And in this case, what this RSI function does is it lets us create a description pretty much for a RSI. Because if we have a look at the RSI, we will see that this RSI has different parameters, for example, the periods and the applied to price. And if we have a look at the parameters of our function, our RSI function, we will see that we also find the period, the MA period here, which is the period of the RSI indicator, and the applied price. And we also find the symbol and the period, because we also have to define what symbol we want to use. Do we want to use gold? Do we want to use US dollar? Do we want to use USD Japanese yen? And the time frame. Do we want to use H1? Do we want to use M15? And you can see in every time frame the RSI looks different. So these are the parameters requested and that they are necessary to define a specific indicator, right? So here we first of all need the symbol. And the easiest way to get the chart symbol where the program is currently running is to use underscore symbol, because I open the reference again, you can see the underscore symbol variable contains the symbol name of the current chart. So this is what we want to use, right? And then next we use the time frame. So you can see we can use H1, M30, H4, whatever we want. And you can see if you write this comma here, it will automatically suggest a list of available time frames. And we could choose any of these time frames. If you want to learn what values are allowed for the different parameters of a function, you can always read this in the documentation. And here you can, for example, read the value for the period can be one of the enum timeframes values. So you click on this and you will see the complete list of the variables or the IDs that is allowed. You can also see for the MA periods, it is a integer value requested, and for the applied price, it is a enum applied price value requested. But don't worry, you can read about all the possible values here. So let's just choose the values that make sense for us. For example, for the time frame, we might want to use period H1, but yeah, let's do this for now, and then I will show you a better way of doing this. And then we go with the MA period, which is 14 by default, and then the applied price is price close. So these are the default settings pretty much that the RSI has. 14 periods applied to close price. So let's go with this for now. And now you can see if you compile this, it's working. There's no error. And we now have this so-called handle created by this RSI function. And you can see this function, it will return the handle. It's also shown here as an integer value. And this means that if a function returns a value, you can see it as after processing this function, after executing the function, the program pretty much will replace these letters here with a number that is returned by the function. So this RSI function will return a value like 10, for example, or 11 or 12. So an integer value that we can put into our handle RSI variable. Oh, and if I forgot to say this, integer values can be any number like this that does not have a decimal point. So these are integer numbers. If I would do something like this, this is not an integer number. This would be a double number because it has decimal, digits after a decimal point. So these are integer numbers. This is a double number. And talking about double numbers, we can now use our handle RSI handle to get the values of the RSI. So let's go to the onTick function. And here we can say we want to create a double variable, which we call RSI, for example. And then, so this will be a double variable. Again, this is just the declaration. We've done this. We know what's going on. The PC will go into the random access memory, the memory of your PC, and it will reserve a spot for a double variable. In this case, double variables are 8 bytes. So it will reserve a larger spot compared to an integer variable. And now we want to use another function, which is the copy buffer function. And this function, it gets the data from a specified indicator. And if we have a look at the reference here at the so-called signature of this function, we can see it requires an indicator handle. And this is what we will provide as a first parameter for the copy buffer function in the round brackets. And this is great because we have a handle. And what I told you before is this handle, it will hold all the information for this specific RSI. And this is why the copy buffer function will know what RSI values we want to get using this specific handle, right? So then we want to use the buffer number, or we want to have the buffer number. And you can usually read about this in the RSI function. For example, it says it only has one buffer. So what does this mean? There are indicators that have multiple lines, for example, the Stochastic or the MACD. So they will have multiple buffers, 2 in this case. But the RSI only has one line. So it's only one buffer where the data is stored in. So if the indicator only has one line, the buffer number for this line is usually 0, because 0 is for the first line, 1 is for the second line, 2 is for the third line, and so on and so on. So we can use buffer number 0, or you could also say main line, which is also 0. Then we have to say what value we want to get. Let's say we want to start at position 1 and get a count of 1. What does this mean? So when you use the copy buffer function, you always get the last value for an indicator in the chart. For example, here we go to the very last bars in this chart, and we will not take the last bar because this would be starting value 0, but we will go to the second last bar, which is starting value 1. This would be 2, this would be 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on and so on. But we will choose 1 here, so we get the value for the last bar, and then we want to have a count of 1. So we only get 1 value for this specific bar. We could also get 2 values, or 3, or 4. And what's going on with these values? We want to store these values in the double array that is the last parameter. And this will be our RSI variable. So after writing this, we have to close the round brackets for the parentheses, for the parameters of the copy buffer function, and end the line with a semicolon. If we compile this, we see an error. Okay, so at this point, we can stop programming because we broke the program. No, I'm just joking. So we can fix this easily. As I told you, we can get only one value if we have a count of 1, but we could also have a count of 5. And if we have a count of 5, we cannot store 5 values in one single variable, right? This is why we will need an array. So instead of using RSI here like this, we will declare this as an RSI or a double array by using these squared brackets. So if we compile now, we do not have an error anymore. And what does this array mean? So I said when we declare a double variable, we will reserve 8 bytes in the RAM, right? In the random access memory of your PC. But since we do not know how many double variables we will store in this variable, we will need a dynamic array. And it is defined like this. So by saying, or by putting these squared brackets after the variable name, this means it's not a normal double array like this, but instead it is a dynamic array, which means the PC will still store this array at a specific location in the random access memory, but it will dynamically rearrange the position of this array depending on its size. For example, if there's only 8 bytes, if there's only one value in the array, we need 8 bytes. If there are 3 values in the array, we need 24 bytes. If there are 10 values in the array, we need 80 bytes. So you can see at this point, we do not know how many values will be inside of this array. This is why it is dynamic, and the PC will have to rearrange the memory a bit so it fits at a specific location. And this is why we can also use this dynamic array here to put X values inside of it. So we could put 5 values. We could also put 1 value. But this way it is dynamic and it can handle as many values as we want to put inside of this array. This is why it requests an array instead of a single double variable. But if we do it like this and if we compile, you can see there are no errors. And if we now go ahead and print this RSI array at index 0, which is the one and only value in this array, because we only put 1 value in this array since we have a count of 1, then we can print the value at index 0 in this array. And this array only has 1 index because we only put 1 value. If we would put 5 values, it would have index 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So counting always starts at 0 in this case. But if we compile this, we can see it now prints a value. And this should be the value of the RSI at the last bar. We can easily check this if we go to View and then open the data window here. So if we open the data window, we can see there is a value for the RSI here, and we'll check the value for the last bar here. And you can see this is indeed the value that is printed in the journal here, in the expert's journal. It's just rounded. And then we can also, for example, but what happens if we switch the time frame to M15? Now the chart indicator is showing a different value, but the value in the expert journal is still the same. This is because we hard-coded the period H1 here for the handle. And this is why it's so powerful to create your own handle in the expert advisor, because you can do whatever you want in the chart, the expert advisor will still do the same calculation. And there's even a better way of doing this, but let me get rid of this print statement first. There's even a better way of doing this here. You can also have the user of your program choose the time frame. For example, we could say input enum timeframes, and then we say time frame. And then we can say something like is equal to period H1. And we can also say input int RSI periods is 14. And we can also say input enum applied price is RSI applied price and its price clause. So you're seeing these are the values that I'm now using here. And what I did here is I declared some variables, but I made them input variables. So it's pretty similar to declaring a global variable, but you will write this input in front of the variable type. If you then compile it, you will see that if you go to the settings of your program, right-click Expert Advisor List, and then you can choose the Expert Advisor here. Properties. Go to Properties, and then you can see now we have 3 input variables, inputs up here, because I declared them. And the user is able to change these values. Isn't that crazy? And the good thing is that if we now use these variables in our code, it will always use the current value inside of these variables. So instead of saying period H1, we want to say time frame. Instead of saying 14, we want to say RSI periods. And instead of saying price close, we want to say RSI applied price. So if we compile now, you can see that, let me print the value again here, just to make sure we all understand what's going on, right? So print RSI at index 0, compile this, do not forget the semicolon here. And then in the program, we will see it will print the value here, right? So this is the value now for the H1 chart, I think. I choose the time frame current. But yeah, you can see if I go to 1 hour, it will print the 1 hour value for the RSI at the last bar. If I go to M30, again, it's still printing the same value. But if I go to the settings now and switch the time frame to M30, you will see the printed value changes. And it's now the value. I switched the chart. It's now the value of the M30 last bar for the RSI. And yeah, you can just compare it on your own PC. It should be correct. Wait, it's not. Did I change some other settings? 30 minutes, 14, price close. Let me check this. Oh wait, I have to check for this bar, right? So yeah, the value is correct. So you can see it's working like this. I could also say, instead of 30 minutes, I want to use time frame current. This means that we always choose the current chart time frame. So if I go to M1, I will automatically get the values for the M1 for the RSI here. And yeah, just make sure to play around with this a little bit, but this is a way of getting the RSI values or any indicator values. And since we figured this out now, we are able to do the same steps for all of these other indicators that we want to use. So we also want to use the stochastic, we want to use the MACD. So the steps are completely the same. What we want to do is we want to create a handle for the stochastic. Then we want to say in the on-init, handle stochastic is equal to I stochastic. So you can see this always has a function, also has a function, then the symbol name will be underscore symbol, time frame will be time frame, and then we have the K period, D period, slowing, enum MA method, and the price field. And these are exactly the settings that we have for the stochastic indicator. So you can see it has more settings than the RSI, but this is not a problem because we can still define this easily as input variables. So let's go with int stochastic K, it's 5 I think, int stochastic D, 3 input, int stochastic slowing is 3 also I think by default. So we have stochastic K, stochastic D, stochastic slowing, and then we have the time frame, the averaging period I think. Yeah, it's of type enum MA method, the MA method. So we go input enum MA method, stochastic MA method, and then we choose mode SMA. And we go here, stochastic MA method. And the last one is the price field, which is of type, you can also see it here also in the suggested, like in the signature of the function. It is enum sto price. So we go input enum sto price, stochastic price field is stochastic low high, I think is the default setting. Let me check this quickly. Yeah, low high is the default setting, and we go with the default setting for now. Stochastic price field like this. Then end the parameter list and end the line with a semicolon. And this will create the handle for the stochastic. So now the next and last step is to get the values. So use copy buffer and now handle stochastic main line or whatever line you want to get, 1, 1, and we store it in the stochastic array. Make sure to use an array. I explained why this is necessary, and then you have the values. So if we now print stochastic array at index 0, we should be able to see the values in the printed tab here, in the experts tab. So let me check this in the data window for the stochastic. We should see the value of this bar here, and it is not really showing the value. So let me check what I messed up here. Main line for the last KD blah blah blah. Maybe it's because I have a different time frame here. What time frame do we use? 1 hour, and we are in the 1 minute chart. Okay, so this doesn't make sense. So let's switch to the 1 hour chart and let's check the stochastic value now. And now you can see the stochastic value for the main line here is what is printed in the experts journal. We could also get the signal line, of course, but for now I think we will just go with the main line. And now, last but not least, we want to get the values for the MACD, right? So let me go back to my program. Let's delete this print statement and let's now get the handle for the MACD. Handle MACD. And what I want to do here is I want to create another handle. So you can see the steps are always the same when working with indicators, and that's why MQL5 programming is so great and so easy. Once you understood this, you can do this with any indicator. So underscore symbol, time frame, or in this case I said I want to use this as a filter, right? So what we can do here is we can say input enum time frames, filter time frame, and we can say period H4, for example, so a higher time frame to filter this. So I will use not the time frame here, but the filter time frame. And then we have the enum, the fast period, the slow period, and the signal period. So let's go input int MACD fast period, input int MACD slow period, input int MACD signal period. And actually, I'm not really sure what the values are, so I will have to look this up. I will leave this blank for the minute. And then we have the applied price, which is input enum applied price, MACD applied price, price close. So let me check the default values here for the MACD. It's 12, 26, and 9. And the close price is close by default. So 12, 26, 9. So let me use 12, 26, 9 and price close. And now let's use these variables here as parameters for our function call to create the handle. So we will always have to provide all the information so the PC knows or the MetaTrader knows what specific indicator we want to get the values for, right? So like this, end the parameter list with a round bracket and end the line with a semicolon. And this will create the handle for the MACD. So let's get the MACD values, right? So copy buffer, handle MACD. So process always the same, easy peasy, main line 1 MACD. So what happens if we print this? MACD, whoopsala. MACD at index 0, it will give us the MACD values for the main line, right? So let's compare this. This is the main line. And the values are printed not correctly. Maybe again, that's the issue. Oh yeah, my fault. We are getting the 4 hours time frame here, right? So let's switch to the 4-hour time frame, and now the values should be correct, and they are. So we got the main line. What's with the signal line? We also want to get the signal line, right? So this is really cool because since we have the handle, we can just say we want MACD as an array, or we want to have MACD main, but we also want to have MACD signal. So we will just create another array. We will call the copy buffer function again, and everything's the same, but instead of main line, we will say signal line. And then 1 and MACD signal. And make sure to adjust the name here because I changed the name here. So I have to go MACD main. So let me print MACD main, and let me also print, write a comma, then add some spaces, another comma, and then I want to have MACD signal at index 0, like this. So if I compile this also, you will see we print the main line and the signal line. And isn't this super, super cool? Just by using the simple concept of MQL5 programming, of having like handles for indicators. Here we define these handles here. We can use these handles whenever we want to get values from the indicators that we specified here. And by using this input mechanism here, where we use input variables, we can then let the user decide what specific indicators he wants to create. Also, there's another cool trick I want to show you. We can say input group, and then we can, in quotation marks, we can say time frame settings, for example, or general settings, or whatever you want to call it. And then we can create another group, and we can say RSI settings. And we can create another group, and you will see what this is for in a second. Stochastic settings, and then we create another group here. Input group MACD settings, And I want to use these the time frame input here to the general settings. So if we compile this and go to the settings of our program again, you can see everything has this beautiful structure now. So it's really easy for the user to see what specific part of settings he is looking at. And this is really cool to structure your inputs if you have a big list of inputs. So we now have all the values for these indicators, which is great. We have them all stored in double arrays, and we can now use them to open positions. So first of all, let's check if there's a signal, right? So whenever you want to check conditions, you use a control structure. And the easiest control structure is a if statement. The if statement just checks one or multiple conditions, and it is written like this. If, and then you have a condition, and then in curly brackets you have the body of the if statement, body that is executed if condition is true. So we have to define our condition first here. So what we want to do is we want to check if the RSI value at index 0 in this array, if it's greater than 70, for example. But hard coding 70 here is not really what I would recommend. I would recommend to create a variable for this, right? So we can say input RSI trigger cell is 70. And we can also create, make this a double variable. And we can also say RSI trigger by is 30. And this is super cool because now we can use these variables instead of hard coding 70. RSI trigger cell. And the user is able to change the signal quickly. Isn't this cool? And then we have the body. So we could say, for example, print sell signal. Sell your home. I don't know, just some information. And then we could also say if RSI 0 is smaller than RSI trigger by, print price is going up, invest, something like this. So if we compile this, we can see if there is a signal in the chart, we will see the print statement. Unfortunately, right now there is no signal. But what happens if we go to the strategy tester? So go to view, strategy tester. This will open the strategy tester. And let me close the toolbox here. And in the strategy tester, you can go to overview, do a visualize test, and choose the expert advisor that you want to test. So in this case, I want to test my oscillator trading program. So select it here for expert, then select a symbol. For example, I can choose XAUUSD for gold. And then I can choose a time frame, maybe the H1 time frame. Then I can choose the date or the time period that I want to test. Let me just go with the, maybe just with the current year. Here. And then the rest can stay as it is. I would suggest every tick based on real tick as a modeling method because it's the most accurate, and make sure that this checkbox is checked. In the strategy tester, you can also see all the inputs here in the inputs tab. And in the strategy tester, you can also collapse the inputs if you have groups, which is really cool. And here you can make all the settings. So I could change this, but I want to keep it as it is. And then in the lower right corner, I just click on start. And this will run a test on historical simulated data or historical data that is in your MetaTrader 5 terminal. So this is a good way to check if your program is working really quickly. So you can see I also have a journal here. If I go here, and I also could see trades. But in the journal, I want to see if I get a signal if the RSI is above 70 or below 30. So here you have this thumb that you can drag along to increase or decrease the speed of the test. If I go to the right side, it will increase this the test, and I can see, there's the RSI dropping below the 30, as you can see here. And as soon as this happens, we see prices going up, invest. I mean, this was a lie because the price is going down, but this is still our signal for the trade, right? So we can see that our if statement is working correctly. We get this message a lot here, actually. Yeah, so this is working. So maybe now let's get some more if statements going here. So let's go back to our code. We could use multiple conditions here. For example, we can say if we get here, we do not want to print this, but instead we want to check something else. For example, if stochastic 0 is greater than stochastic trigger sell, then we want to do something. And here we want to do if stochastic value in the array at index 0 is smaller than stochastic trigger buy, we want to do something, right? So compile and boom, we get errors because we did not define these variables, but we can fix this quickly. Just go here, input double stochastic trigger sell. We set this to 70 also, and then stochastic trigger buy will be 30, right? So compile this quickly, and then we can see, or let's now go to our program again and maybe print, yeah, let's just print sell and let's just print buy, right? Just to check if everything is working smoothly as intended. So go back to your MetaTrader if you added these print statements. Oh, do not forget to compile and then just run the same strategy, the same test again. So what we will see is if the RSI is dropping below 70, it's still giving me the signal, but also because the stochastic is also below 30. So both values are below 30, so we get the signal. Let me get something else here. For example, here we see the stochastic is above 70, but we do not see the RSI above 70, so we do not get the sell signal, right? So here, right now, when this bar closes and the RSI is also above 70, which could happen here if this bar closes now, then we will see a sell signal, right? So let's wait until this bar closes. And it was not above 70 for the RSI, so we do not see the sell signal. So let me fast forward until we see a valid sell signal. First of all, there was another buy signal, I think, but this should also work for sell signals. And there you see the sell signal. So you can see the code is indeed working, which is super, super great. So now we have to check our last condition, which is if MACD main at index 0 is smaller than MACD signal at index 0, right? Because this means the main line is below the signal line. And only then we want to have this sell signal. And here we want to check if MACD main at index 0 is above MACD signal at index 0, because only then our filter is true and only then we want to print buy, right? So compile, go back to your tester, stop the last test, close the window of the testing run, and run another test. All the settings are the same. And always make sure to remember that we are using the signal time frame H1, but the MACD is shown here in the H4 because we use it as a filter. So right now we should only see sell trades, right? Sell signals. Because the MACD is about, it's going short. And you can see like this first signal here, which was a long buy signal, it was not seen by the program because this would print buy normally, but if we go to the MACD, we can see the main line was at this point, it should have been below the, wait, let me get the time here, the 3rd of January around 17 o'clock. So if we go here, 3rd of January around 17 o'clock, yeah, you can see the main line is clearly below the signal line. So we can only see sell signals, no buy signals. So let's fast forward until we see a valid signal. There's a buy signal. And this was this one, 11th January around 19 o'clock. So there is the RSI below 30, the stochastic is below 30, and this would have been a great signal actually. And also we should see the MACD is long, right? So 11th of January, 19 o'clock. Yes, the main line is above the signal line. So you can see our signaling is working correctly. So all we have to do now is open positions, right? So yeah, what we want to do here is we want to say, let's get a, let's say at the very top of our program, hashtag include and then trade/trade.mqh. This is what we have to do if we want to open positions. Or let me correct this, is not what we have to do, but it's the easiest and fastest way and most efficient way to open positions. So if you include this and click on compile, you can see some things changing in your toolbox. Now there's a lot more information because using this trade.mqh file, it will include a different file. And you can find this in the navigator of your MetaTrader editor. If you go to include, if you go to trade, and if you go to trade.mqh. If you open this file, you can see it's a big file. It's super confusing, so make sure to close it again as quickly as possible. But what this does is it will give us access to a lot of code that is already written by the developers of the MetaTrader, and it will help us to open positions quickly. This goes a little bit into the topic of object-oriented programming, which is a really cool topic, and it helps you to write more complex programs really efficiently. But if you want to learn more about this, check out the link in the video description where I linked a complete course on MQL5 programming, which will teach you really everything you need to know about MQL5 programming. And it's such a cool course, and make sure to check it out. But what we need to know here is, since we included this file, we can now create a trade object variable of type cTrade. Oh, it's not trade, but cTrade, like this. C means class. Again, object-oriented programming, I won't go into details here. But if you do it like this and compile, you can see there should be no errors. If there are any errors after adding this, you probably not included the file correctly. But if you did it like this, we can now use this trade here to open positions. So we could say trade sell. And then we just have to provide a volume, which could be 0.1 lots, for example. And we can also say trade buy, where we have a buy signal. And yeah, it makes sense to not hard code this, but instead we should make an input variable, which we can call lots. So like this, go to the top of your program and write the input variable here. Maybe we can also create a new group for this, which we can call trade settings. And there we go, input double lots 0.1. It's a double variable, of course, because it has a decimal point. So if we compile this, we can see, yeah, everything should be working. So if you close your last test, and if you run a new test, we should see that we now open positions. And yeah, let's just wait for this. So let's wait for the first valid signal. There it is, and there's a buy position. That's so cool. Automatically activated or executed by our program. And in fact, we see multiple buy positions, which is a problem actually. So why is this happening? Because all of this code is written in the onTick function. And we learned in the beginning of this tutorial that the onTick function it's executed with every single tick. So everything here is executed with every single tick. And since we coded it like this, so we always take the values from the last bar, this will be valid or true for a lot of ticks, of course. So let's fix this quickly. So the easiest way to make sure that we do not open multiple positions is to keep track of our positions pretty much. And also, there are some more things that we should do. Like maybe let's start with something else. Since we are using always the last bar here, our signal will also appear first at the opening of a new bar, because that's the only situation when the signal changes, right? So what we can do is here, we can create another global variable, which I want to call bars total. And this bars total variable, we will check this in the onTick function. But first of all, let's create another variable here, which is called bars. And here we say I bars and then symbol time frame or filter time frame, because this is our bigger time frame, right? like this. And then we want to check if bars total is unequal bars, like this. This is a if statement. So everything here will only become executed if this is true. And then inside of this if statement, we want to say bars total is equal to bars. So these lines make sure that we only process whatever is written here once if there's a new bar in the filter time frame. So what we want to do is we want to take all of our code here and we want to move it inside here. So take it, cut it here, and paste it here. Also, after pasting this code, make sure to select everything again and use the Tabulator button on your keyboard to move everything to the right. This is important because now it is on the same level as this if statement body. So whenever you have something in the body of an if statement, you want to push it a little bit to the right. So you know, like just by looking at this code, you can see that everything that is to the right here is inside of this if statement. We applied the same mechanism before for these if statements. So everything in the body is pushed to the right using the Tabulator button on your keyboard. So by using this coding convention that you would see in pretty much every coding language, it's very easy to read for a programmer. It's not necessary. You could also do it like this. Like there are no problems with the code itself, but it's just super ugly and not easy to read for a programmer. So just make sure to stick to these coding conventions to make it easy for yourself and for fellow programmers if they read your code. Okay, so if we do this, we will now see that this signal will not appear multiple times, but only once if there's a signal. So it will only appear once per bar. So let me test this quickly again to show you what we just achieved by adding this simple if statement to check for a new bar in the H4 time frame. So the signal, it should still be here, but it's not. So it looks like I messed something up. Oh, I just realized what I messed up here. We don't want to use the filter time frame here because the filter time frame is the higher time frame, of course, but we want to use the signal time frame because even though the filter does not change with every bar, but the signal changes with every bar, right? So if we compile it like this again and do the same test again, it should now open the position that we saw before. And let me fast forward so we can see where it happened. I think it was, there we see the signal, right? So this is great. We now have a buy signal and we can run this test like this. There are still some things we want to do, right? Because if we have a buy signal, we don't really want to have multiple buy signals, right? So to make sure this is not happening, we will create another variable here, which will be of type unsigned long, and we call this position ticket. So what's going on here? This position ticket variable is of type unsigned long. Unsigned long or long variables in general are pretty similar to int variables. They are numbers without a decimal point, but they can be even bigger. So they take up more space in the random access memory of your PC, but in the end, it's just a number without a decimal point. And why do we do this? Because here, when we send a position, we want to check if trade sell lots was successful. And then we want to say position ticket is equal to trade result order. This will store the position ticket or the order ticket, which will then be the position ticket of this operation in the position ticket variable. And then we want to make sure if position ticket has a value already, then we don't want to open another position, right? So here we want to check if position ticket is greater than 0. Oh, sorry, this was wrong. If position ticket is smaller or equal 0, or is 0, yeah, smaller or equal, maybe, then we want to check if we open a new position. And again, make sure to move everything to the right if you put it inside of a if statement, so you have a good overview. So if you compile it like this, the block here now should look like this. Make sure that, I know this can be confusing, but every opening bracket should have a closing bracket. Every curly opening bracket should have a closing bracket. So you should always match them. And if you move it to the right, it should be really easy to see which opening bracket belongs to which closing bracket. But if you do it like this, we will only open one position. And now we want to add something else. We want to check if, we want to check, before we check for new positions, we want to check if position ticket is greater than 0, because in this case, we could have a open position. So what we want to do is we want to check if position select by ticket, and then we want to say position ticket. So if we are able to select a position with a ticket, this means, and if we have a look at the reference here, position select by ticket, it selects a position and it returns false if the function fails. So if we cannot select a position, it means this position is closed. So if we cannot select this position, we want to write a else part for our if statement. And here we want to write position ticket is equal 0. You can combine if and else parts like this. So you have a if statement, if position select by ticket, position ticket, for example, then you have the body of if statement. But if this body is never reached, if this condition is false, then we check the else part, which is written directly after the closing bracket of the body of the if statement. Then there's the else, and it has a body too. So whenever this fails, when this is false, when this condition is not true, then everything in the body of the else part is executed. So then we reset the ticket. And we can also write something here like function position number, position ticket was closed. Something like this. But in the body of the if statement, if we have a open position, then we want to do something. And what we want to do is we want to check the position type. And after selecting a position like this, using the position select by ticket, you can then use the position get integer, position get string, and position get double function. And read about them in the documentation. They give you information about a selected position. So what I can do is I can say position get integer, position type, and here I can compare this to position type by. So I will check if it is a by position. And again, a else if statement. So not only else, but else if. So if this is not true, we are checking this if statement first. And if this is true, then we get into the body of the second if statement block here. Yeah, I know this could be confusing, but just think about it sometime and then you will understand. Also, make sure to check out the link in the video description. I cannot say this enough times. It's really the best course on MQL5 programming that you will find, and it will teach all of this stuff in much more detail. So I will explain if statements not only in 5 minutes like I do here, but I think I do it in like 30 minutes or so. So you will know really everything and you will get a step-by-step guide. But if we have a buy position, we want to check if MACD main is below MACD signal. And in this case, we want to close the buy position. And we can do so by saying if trade position close, and then we close this position ticket. And if this was successful, then we want to say, yeah, maybe something like print position number, position ticket was closed. Because of MACD, and then we say position ticket is equal 0. So always make sure to reset your position ticket then, because otherwise you will never open new positions. And then here we want to do the same stuff if we have a sell position. If MACD main is above MACD signal, then we want to say print function position number, position ticket was closed because of MACD, like this. Position ticket is equal 0. Oh, actually I forgot to close the position here. Of course, I will have to call if trade position close first on the position ticket. and then again move everything in the body of this if statement to the right. Also, since we are using print statements now, we can say something like print function position number, position ticket was executed. Like this. And also the same print statement here. So if you add all of this code and make sure to compile it. Oh, for some reason I cannot compile, which is really weird. So yeah, I quickly restarted my meta editor and my MetaTrader, and now I have the compile button again. I don't know, this should not be on your PC. I never had this before, but if it happens, just restart everything. So after compiling this, we can now run the same test again. So we added the code, so the position ticket variable is updated, and then we close the positions if the filter direction of the MACD changes, right? So this is what we are doing here right now. So let's wait until we see our first position, and oh, this was quickly closed. Looks like the filter was changing really quickly. And let me just check if this is correct. So so at 19 o'clock, 11th of January, the position was opened. At 20 o'clock, it was closed. So let me check this here. And yeah, I think this could be correct. The MACD line drops below the signal line actually. So this is correct. So let's maybe see another signal. And I think I will have to test a longer period now so we can see multiple signals. So let's get a custom period here, and let's maybe start testing in 2023 in the beginning. So we will test the whole year of 2023 here. So let me quickly check if this is working. And then we have our basic program pretty much for this oscillator trading program. Most of the time the MACD seems to change direction really quickly after the position is opened. So let me check if we even see, oh yeah, sometimes it is going for some bars. So I think the mechanism should be correct here. Don't see any problems, but the trades seem to be really short in most of the situations. This one was a little bit longer, but it was a losing trade. This one was a shorter winning trade. This one was a shorter winning trade too. So we can see sometimes if it's going to the wrong direction for a too long time, it's not going great, but overall our program should be working. So there we see another buy signal. There's another buy signal, and this one seems to be actually a good position. And yeah, you can see as soon as there's the counter signal in the filter time frame, we see the exit. And yeah, it's working so far. A lot of these trades are small winning trades. I don't know how the graph looks. Yeah, the graph looks not too great, but of course there are a lot of things that you could optimize and change, and maybe you can also add a TP and a SL, and maybe I should do this because this program actually looks kind of cool, and maybe I want to test some more with this program. And yeah, you can see like also there are good winning trades from time to time, also losing trades from time to time. So we will have to add, or we could add some more code, but for this tutorial it should be enough, I think. And maybe I will do one or two more tutorials to add a TP and ASL maybe. I think it could definitely boost the performance. Maybe you could also use the exit based on TP and SL instead of the exit by the filter signal of the MACD, because you can see here the signals themselves are sometimes really, really good. Like here, this buy signal would have been really cool, and you could have profited from like 4,000 points instead of closing the position right away. Here also you could have reached like 1,000 points. Here you could have reached like 1,000 points. Here, okay, this sell signal was not good, but yeah, overall, there is way more potential in these trades often. So maybe some more adjustments are needed, but for now, this program is good like it is as a first part for this programming tutorial. So let me show you the code quickly again, slowly. And again, do not ask me if I will post the code in the comments, because I won't. You don't learn anything. Make sure to copy it do the minimum work that you have to do by just copying the code from the PC. And I can guarantee you will learn so much. So just invest in yourself, because that's all you can do, right? And yeah, if you want to learn more about programming, check out the link in the video description. But yeah, you can, if you want, have a look at this code again to maybe find some of your errors. Make sure to get all the semicolons right and stuff, and especially the curly brackets. That's an error that's often happening, especially if you have situations like here where you have like these curly brackets stacked. So you should make sure to not mess them up. But yeah, that's the whole code. Hope you liked this tutorial. Let me know in the comments what you think, and see you next time. Have a good time, good trades. Bye bye.